Hi friends, in this tutorial I'm going to explain you about exception handling. In the previous tutorial I have explained you that whenever in your program at any point of line, if any runtime error is occurred, JRE encounters a problem so that it throws an object to your console, right? If you want to continue with the remaining steps of your program, you have to do exception handling. In the previous video I told you that if you want to continue with the further lines of code, I said that you have to catch the exception which is thrown by JRE, right? That is what exception handling can be done in 5 ways, in using 5 keywords, right? They are: one is try, other one is catch, another one is throw, other one is throws, another one is finally. Using these 5 keywords, this is more than enough to do exception handling. I'll explain you each and every keyword with an example so that you can understand, so that you can proceed in your programs. At first I will use try and catch. First of all, I'll write syntax of try and catch so that I'll continue with the program. This is the syntax. Right? In the try block, you have to keep the statements wherever you have an thought that this line of code may generate an exception. Put that in a try block, right? If you put that in a try block, whenever JRE encounters an exception, it throws an object, right? Whenever it throws an object, it is catched by the catch block, right? If you want to do exception handling, these two are try and catch blocks are so much important. If you want to use try and catch blocks, this syntax is very much important to learn. At first, whichever the line you got to have you have an idea that this line of code may generate an exception, you have an idea, then you keep it in the try block. Whenever you keep it in a try block, whenever JR encounters an exception, it throws an object, then it is catched by a catch block. And further, what you want to do if you have that an object, you have to specify in the catch block. I'm printing here what exception is what exception object is created by the JRE. I'm printing that. You can print your name too here. That's it. What you want to specify here is, I have an exception. I have got an exception. You have to specify here, because in the further proceedings you can proceed in the way that I'm getting this line of code and error. In the further proceedings you can eliminate that type of exceptions, so that if you use printing function. That's it. I will explain you with an example here. In the last class, I said that, uh, wait, uh, um, I have a public static void main function, right? And in this function, I have variables like int a equal to 5, comma b equal to 5, comma c equal to 5, right? In the try block, I'm doing this: int c equal to a divided by b minus c, right? This line is compulsory, you will get an exception, right? Because b minus c you are dividing with 0, right? This is runtime exception. JRE encounters this and it will throw an object so that it catch block catches that object, that object will be in E. What you want to do with E? If you want to print that object, let someone print that with a system dot out dot println. I will draw in a shortcut. If you want to print that object, directly print that object, or else if you want to specify to the user that you are dividing with the 0, in that way also you can specify you are dividing with 0, you are dividing with 0. In this way also you can specify to the user. In this way you can do exception handling with the use of try and catch block. And further I want to give you information that after try and catch block, if you have anything called system dot out dot println, I have something called to print I'm out of exception. In this way, if you want to print anything, these all lines of codes are out of the try and catch block. Here you are getting an exception, right? After catching the block, it will execute the further lines of code too. The main aim of exception handling is to catch that exception so that we can proceed to the further lines of code. If you don't use try and catch block, your program is stuck here itself. It will not go to the further lines of code. By using try and catch block only, you can proceed to the further lines of code. That's it. And I'll explain you the finally keyword. I'll remove try block and also catch block 2. I'll use finally now. Here now I'll get an exception, but here now I'm not using try or catch block because I'm not using here. That's it. If you are not using here try or catch block, your program stuck here itself, right? But when you use finally keyword, even though in any program in the any step of the program, if you got any exception, it doesn't bother. Directly go to the if it is have an finally block, directly go to the finally block, and whatever the lines of code are written in the finally block, it just blindly executes. It doesn't bother with the other lines of code other than the finally block. That's it. Finally, this finally block is majorly used to close files. If you got any type of error in the middle of the code, but if you are not using finally to close the file, what happens? uh, if you cannot use that file one more time in another program. That's what happens if you does not use finally to close the program. In any rare cases it may occur. And I would like to explain you later on with I've explained you about try, catch, and finally, right? And one there are other two what we say, two keywords I would like to explain you. That further is throws keyword I want to explain you. Throws keyword you use it to throw the exception to the calling function, right? There are two functions, right? One is called function, one is calling function. I'll explain you with an example. Wait. In this example, take in the here check exception is in try block. Go to check exception. I'm calling. This is a calling function. This is a called function, right? It go to the called function, and here I have one line of code, my text.txt, but I didn't created my file.txt file in my system, right? If you does not create my file.txt, what type of exception will be created? File not found exception will be created by the JRE, right? When file not found exception is created, it throws that exception to the calling function, right? It directly throws the exception. It is in try block. Now it can catch that exception. What is catching? Here file not found exception is catched by the catch block, and